Her face is one of the most recognizable images in the world. The painted limestone bust showing a beautiful woman wearing a tall blue crown has been reproduced millions of times on posters, postcards, and coffee mugs. Museums fight over who gets to display it. It's been called the most beautiful work of art from the ancient world. But here's what makes this 3,300-year-old sculpture so haunting. We have no idea where the woman it depicts is buried. Her name was Nefertiti, which means the beautiful one has come, and she was the great royal wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, the heretic king who tried to destroy Egypt's traditional religion. She lived during one of the most dramatic periods in Egyptian history. She may have briefly ruled Egypt as Pharaoh herself. She had 6 daughters. She witnessed the collapse of a religious revolution. And then, around age 30, she disappeared from all historical records. No tomb, no mummy, no burial, nothing. For over 3,000 years, archaeologists have searched for Nefertiti's final resting place. Some believe she's buried in a hidden chamber behind King Tut's tomb. Others think she was buried in a secret location and her tomb remains undiscovered. A few believe she might have even ruled Egypt disguised as a male pharaoh under a different name. This is the mystery of Nefertiti, the most beautiful queen whose fate remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved puzzles. Very little is known about Nefertiti's origins, which only adds to her mystery. She first appears in historical records already married to Amenhotep IV, who would become Akhenaten around 1350 BC. We don't know when or where she was born. Some historians believe she was an Egyptian princess, possibly the daughter of the pharaoh I, who would later become Pharaoh himself after Tutankhamun. Others think she might have been a foreign princess from the kingdom of Mitanni, sent to Egypt as a diplomatic bride. A few controversial theories suggest she might have actually been Akhenaten's cousin. What we do know is that she became great royal wife, the highest ranking of the pharaoh's wives, and she held an unprecedented level of power for a queen. From the very beginning of Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti was depicted not as a supporting figure, but as an equal partner. In temple reliefs, she appears the same size as the pharaoh, something almost never done in Egyptian art where the king was always shown larger. She's shown performing religious rituals that were traditionally reserved for pharaohs, not queens. She appears smiting enemies, a royal prerogative usually only depicted with kings. In fact, Nefertiti is shown in more surviving art from the Amarna period than Akhenaten himself. This suggests she wielded enormous influence and possibly even shared royal power with her husband. Together, they had 6 daughters, but no surviving sons that we know of. Their daughters' names reflected the new religion. Meritaten meant beloved of Aten, Meketaten meant protected by Aten, and so on. These 6 princesses appear constantly in Amarna art, playing at their parents' feet, sitting on their laps, creating intimate family scenes unprecedented in Egyptian royal art. When Akhenaten launched his religious revolution, banning the worship of Egypt's traditional gods and replacing them with worship of a single god, the sun disk Aten, Nefertiti was completely supportive. In fact, she may have been a driving force behind the revolution. She took on a new name in addition to Nefertiti, Neferneferuiten, meaning beautiful are the beauties of Aten. She was depicted as the primary worshipper of Aten alongside Akhenaten. In the great temple of Aten at Amarna, the new capital city, Nefertiti had her own sanctuary where she performed rituals. She was shown making offerings, pouring libations, and worshiping the sun disk. But the religious revolution had devastating consequences for Egypt. The powerful priesthood of Ammonius lost everything. Traditional temples were closed. The economy, which had been centered around temple complexes, collapsed. Egypt's foreign territories rebelled and were conquered by enemies while Akhenaten ignored military matters to focus on religion. The people suffered, and Nefertiti, as the queen supporting this revolution, would have been deeply unpopular with many Egyptians who saw their traditional religion destroyed. Then, around year 12 of Akhenaten's 17-year reign, something terrible happened. The evidence suggests that a plague swept through Egypt. Nefertiti's second daughter, Akhenaten, died young and was buried with heartbreaking scenes of the royal family mourning. Other members of the royal family may have died as well. And this is when Nefertiti's story becomes truly mysterious. After year 12, depictions of Nefertiti become less frequent. By year 14, she has completely disappeared from the historical record. Her name vanishes. No more reliefs. No more inscriptions. Nothing. What happened to Nefertiti after year 14? There are several competing theories, and this is where Egyptology becomes detective work. Theory 1. She died. Perhaps she was a victim of the same plague that killed her daughter. She would have been in her late 20s or early 30s. She was buried somewhere, but we haven't found her tomb yet. This is the simplest explanation, but it doesn't explain why her burial place has never been discovered when we've found the tombs of far less important people. Theory 2. She fell from power. Maybe she and Akhenaten had a falling out over religious or political matters. Perhaps she opposed some of his more extreme policies. She could have been exiled, sent away from the capital, or demoted to a minor wife. But this seems unlikely given how central she had been to the regime. Theory 3, and this is where it gets really interesting, she became Pharaoh. Around the time Nefertiti disappears, a mysterious figure appears in the historical record with the name Nefertiti. This person ruled as pharaoh or co-regent with Akhenaten during his final years. Some Egyptologists believe Nefertiti was actually Nefertiti ruling under a throne name, possibly even dressed as a male pharaoh with a false beard and masculine regalia. There's some evidence supporting this. The name Nefertiti was one of Nefertiti's names. Some inscriptions of Nefertiti include the phrase, effective for her husband, suggesting a female ruler. If this theory is correct, Nefertiti would have been one of the very few women to rule Egypt as pharaoh, joining Hatshepsut in that exclusive club. She might have ruled for a year or two, possibly trying to undo some of Akhenaten's more disastrous policies and repair relations with the old priesthood. The death of Akhenaten in around 1336 BC, the historical record becomes even murkier. A shadowy figure named Smenkhare appears briefly, ruling for perhaps a year or less. Was Smenkhare a male co-regent? Was it another name for Nefertiti? We don't know. Then came the boy pharaoh Tutankhaten, later called Tutankhamun, who was probably Akhenaten's son. Some theories suggest Nefertiti might have been Tutankhamun's mother, though the evidence is inconclusive. Within a few years of Tutankhamun taking the throne, the Aten revolution was completely reversed. The old gods were restored, and Akhenaten's name was systematically erased from history. And what about Nefertiti? If she died during Akhenaten's reign, she might have been buried in the royal tomb at Amarna, which was ransacked in antiquity. Her mummy could have been destroyed or lost. But some archaeologists believe she was reburied elsewhere after the Amarna period ended. The most exciting theory came in 2015 when archaeologist Nicholas Reeves proposed that Nefertiti might be buried in a hidden chamber behind the walls of King Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. He pointed to what appeared to be sealed doorways visible in radar scans. If true, this would be the greatest archaeological discovery since Tutankhamun himself. Multiple investigations have been conducted using ground-penetrating radar, but the results have been frustratingly inconclusive. Some scans suggest hollow spaces behind the walls. Others find nothing. As of now, the mystery remains unsolved. Today, over 3,000 years after her disappearance, Nefertiti remains one of history's most captivating mysteries. Her iconic bust, discovered in 1912 by German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt in the ruins of a sculptor's workshop at Amarna, has made her face immortal. It's been called the Mona Lisa of ancient Egypt. But unlike the Mona Lisa, we don't know the full story of the woman in the portrait. Was she a powerful co-ruler who shared the throne with her husband? Did she briefly become pharaoh herself after his death? Why did she disappear from records so suddenly? Where is she buried? These questions remain unanswered. Perhaps future archaeological discoveries will solve the mystery. Maybe ground-penetrating radar technology will finally confirm what's behind the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb. Or perhaps Nefertiti's final resting place will be discovered in an entirely unexpected location, still waiting beneath the Egyptian sand after millennia. Until then, she remains what she has always been, the most beautiful mystery in ancient history, a woman whose face we know intimately, but whose fate remains forever hidden in the shadows of time.